I recently watched Attack on Titan for the first time, and it took me about a month to get through it all. Well, all that's been made so far. We're kind of on the biggest cliffhanger known to man right now. And I had no clue what it was about beforehand, and the only things I really recognized were Mikasa Ackerman and the Scouts insignia, because a bunch of kids would wear Scout Regiment cloaks in high school, which I assure you is very cool. So being so unfamiliar with the show, you can imagine my surprise when this thing, and this thing, and this thing are walking around eating people. And of course, the Titans are just gross and unsettling, and we all know the reason for it. It's because they almost look like humans. Hi, welcome to my channel where I talk about things that interest me because that's all I do all the time. I wanted to change in scenery, so here I am in front of something other than a lava lamp and an Unus Annus poster. This isn't my backyard, by the way. This is someone else's. I just walked in and now I'm recording here. So the Uncanny Valley is something that most people have some ideas about, but I wanted to get into a little more depth about what exactly it is and why it happens. I'm just gonna rip the Wikipedia definition to start off. In aesthetics, the Uncanny Valley is a hypothesized relationship between the degree of an object's resemblance to a human being and the emotional response to such an object. The concept suggests that humanoid objects, which perfectly resemble actual human beings, provoke uncanny or strangely familiar feelings of eeriness and revulsion in observers. Valley denotes a dip in the human observer's affinity for the replica, a relation that otherwise increases with the replica's human likeness. So here's the graph depicting the Uncanny Valley. What this definition is saying is that normally humanoid objects are more relatable and pleasant than more abstract ones. An action figure delivers more neuron stimulation than a lamp, for instance. And of course, a replicant from Blade Runner is totally fine too because they're 100% humanoid, and things that are 100% human absolutely provide neuron stimulation. But there's a little dip right before perfectly copying humanity where the thing people are perceiving becomes a little f***y. The graph has dead people, zombies, and prosthetic hands in there, and it shows that movement makes things more familiar. The dotted line is moving things and the solid line is non-moving things, for now. So now that we know the what, we can talk about the why, and oh boy, there are a lot of potential reasons why. There is a list of 9 possible reasons why this happens on the wiki page, but I'm only going to talk about a few of them. Firstly, and this one is the one you can feel in your bone cells, near human stimuli look like disabled or something. Human brains are genetically built to recognize facial and bodily features that indicate infertility or just bad DNA in a ton of different forms. And these robots give off a lot of these signs, which is really instinctively racist towards near human robots. Similarly, we have a cognitive mechanism that disgusts us when we see a new type of person for the first time because they might carry pathogens. The reason that this only happens to robots that look like humans is because we know instinctively that the more similar the robots are to humans, the more likely we can be affected by the same diseases that they're carrying. Another one that subconsciously creeps you out, okay, well that's all of them, but like these ones in particular, is that we can pick out human traits in non-human objects that make them more empathetic. But when we see something really human-like, we naturally pick out traits that make them less than human and less empathetic. So instead of a non-human object being at 0 empathy points, we might see something that gives them a little boost, and it's cute. But when we see something human, like that should be at the full 100, we look for anything that's missing and lose empathy with every docked point. There are a couple of reasons for the Uncanny Valley that are a little more abstract, like explanations that have to do with different categories of being crossing over. But one that I think is really interesting is the mortality salience hypothesis, which states that viewing an uncanny robot elicits an innate fear of death and culturally supported defenses for coping with death's inevitability. Partially disassembled androids play on subconscious fears of reproduction, replacement, and annihilation. Here is a photo of Marcus crawling through the android landfill amongst hundreds of partially disassembled androids. You're welcome. There's also an innate fear for the people these androids are modeled after. So they're doppelgangers, meaning that there's a subconscious worry of being replaceable, which pulls on this fear of like, why are we here? What happens after, etc. So right now we really can't avoid all of these sources of uncanniness, but there are a couple of ways we can stop making creepy, weird stuff. The main idea is to keep things consistent. So if your robot looks like a human, it should sound and move like a human too. If your robot looks like a person but sounds like a Twitch donation, you're gonna have issues. And now you know in your front brain why your hind brain freaks out so much when it sees this stuff. Sorry for being on for 2 weeks, I had a full plate. Thanks for watching.